Hey, it's Danny. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. And this is a deconstruction of my last single this year, 2021, on Just Underground Recordings. So we're listening to the extended vocal version. There is also a radio edit and there's a festive version as well because it's that time of year. In this video, we're going to take a look behind the scenes. I'm going to show you the instruments used, the drum programming. We're also going to take a look at some of the effects that really contribute to the actual sound of the production. Now we're coming up to the first vocal section. I'm going to let that run, and then when that's finished, we'll take a look behind the scenes. Just a note, this is available for download for DJs on tracksource.com. And in the radio edit format, it's available across all of the streaming platforms. So let's take a look. So we're going to start off with the beats. I've got things color coded here. So all of the drum kind of rhythmic elements are in this pink here, musical elements in purple, vocals in blue, and then any kind of effects are there in the light blue. So let's solo the beats. Take a look at the programming. Let's just take a look here at the actual clip itself. It's a very small selection of individual drum sounds, as you can see here. A kick and hat, a little knocking sound, clap, a supplementary clap. I'm going to play the two together. So they're really creating this really interesting kind of vibe. Let me just focus on that in the production in a second. Open hi-hat, another hi-hat, and then there's a short kick every now and again. It's not occurring at this point in time, but let's just take a look at this. So I mentioned those two claps, right? So this clap here, and then this one. So look at the relationship between these two here. So this clap is on every second beat, and then this one's just before. Okay, so let me just highlight these two again and take a listen. And in fact, really, what we want to do is get back to this point in time so that we can hear and see that happening. See? Focus on these here. So that creates a really interesting kind of vibe with the drums. Let's just listen to those all soloed again. So I think that works really well, and it gives it a kind of personality. Now, on top of those drums, we have a shaker. And this is being kind of triggered. It's a loop, and then it's got some gaps just to create a little bit of variety. And then other times it's constant. So you can see that here. So that creates a shift in energy at certain points. So they're running together. Also, I've got some crash cymbals that I've programmed in here. That's just a basic 909 crash and splash cymbals. So these are being triggered at certain points, just used to emphasize just kind of compositional moments, really. So you can see that they vary. And what I tend to do, if you've seen some of my other videos, you'll know this, is I tend to perform these in live. So I will trigger these deliberately in certain ways to back up some of the music elements that are happening and the structural changes. So what else do we have? We got some musical elements here to take a look at, but I wanted to just prioritize these steps. And these are kind of old school. Let's just get them triggering. There we go. It's two layered samples. This brass one, and then this here, that's an old hip hop sample. So the two together they are being affected by the Arturia Delay Eternity, and this one is used a lot. It's my favorite delay plugin at the moment. Just a very basic echo, but I love the sound of that. That's running on the two of them together in a group. So that adds some nice drama at certain points. It's really quite an essential part of the track, really, I think. Now, let's take a look what else we have. Let me go in the order of the actual elements coming in here. So the bass line comes in first. Let me just bring this one up as well. So the bass line. Let's take a look at this. Now, this is Reactor, and this is Razor, which is an instrument I've used a lot. I love this patch. It's called Barnaby. It has been customized slightly. I think I remember adjusting the cutoff a little bit lower, taking off the reverb here that adds some stereo width. So I wanted that to be mono, dead center. I've also used an EQ here just to roll off some frequencies about 186. It felt like there's a little bit too much energy in that area. The other thing that I'm using is Track Spacer. Track Spacer is being used to enable the kick and the bass to sit in a better space with each other. Then I finally got this BX console, the SSL G, the 4000 series, and that's being used to give me this kind of summing, analog summing, which I use a lot. So that's going to be available on almost every single channel here. So that's the bass. Let's take a look at the programming so you can see this if you're wondering. And there's a lovely little kind of bend going up and down every now and again, which is the legato on the actual patch with some glide. So that's that. Now let's take a look. What else do we have? We have next in the order is the brass stab. Now this is another critical one. Just love that sound. And I've got to give a shout to Poloid Underground, who is really one to watch out. Very talented young Italian house music producer. And he was on a recent live stream I held, mentioning how he loves these brass stabs that I do. So yeah, it's feeling like it's a bit of a signature thing. I'm using the Korg Triton here, and the patch is the M12 brass, one I've used a lot. I love the sound of this thing. Once again, going through the Arturia Delay Eternity, I will bring this up again. I just love the sound of this delay. So yeah, the chords, let's take a look at the programming. You can see these in here. So it's not a sample, it's literally played in, and you know, that's really creating a very, very distinctive part of this composition is those chords, and you're going to see those in more detail over here on the piano. I just love this section when the track is playing. And what am I using here? It's another Arturia instrument, and this is the V2 piano, the American initialized patch. Loving the sound of that. It really suits this track. It has this kind of classic, almost kind of New York house kind of vibe to it. So organ. Just love this sound as well. This sounds really kind of authentic deep house. This is once again another Arturia instrument. This is the B3 V2, and this is a patch called Choral Organ. And what I'm doing with that also is, you just heard it running through Ableton Live's phaser. All right, and you can see very slowly moving here, adding some beautiful movement to that sound. It was very clubby, very deep, and that just adds some contrast in that section. So you've got all of these elements working and almost kind of alternating. The wine pad and also the EP, let's come on to these. So as you've seen on many of my videos, I use the Korg M1 wine patch, but this is a copy using Ableton's operator. And I did a separate video talking about how to create this, but you can see it's running with a single oscillator here as a sine wave, running through some channel EQ to roll off some of the lows, running through a delay to give it some space. And that's sitting there. And these are just sustained notes compared to the others that were shorter and more percussive. And also I'm taking out the root, the bass note, to just give it a little bit more kind of thinness. So that allows it to sit better with the other elements in the composition. So that's happening there. There is also an arpeggiation occurring. He says, now there is an arp at some point. That's up here. For some reason, the name of the actual clip is incorrect. This is more of a kind of resonance sweep, actually. Let's take a look at this. This is another Arturia instrument. And this is the SQ80V. I love this thing. It's got a very kind of classic kind of 90s vibe to me. So that's a very important part there. And then also prior to that, there is another kind of resonant synth sound. And that's coming from an instrument here. Let's take a look. What is it? It's the FM8. And traditionally, I haven't used the FM8 much, but recently I got a hold of the Native Instruments Control keyboard, you know, the S61, and I've been exploring presets using the keyboard, which has been a great way to discover instruments that I didn't use before in the complete library. So that's been really interesting. So let's just take a look at this one. And this has got the auto pan on it to create some movement left and right. And essentially this is telegraphing what's coming up. It's showing you that something new is going to happen. By the fact it's got these ascending notes and then something occurs afterwards. And so you can see that's when the wind pad happens. Is there anything else musically? Yes, there is. There is an electric piano over here. Love the sound of this one. This is once again another Arturia instrument. This is the Stage 73. This is the butterfly effect preset. Love the sound of that. Sounds amazing. So let's just put it all into context.
Where did you go, baby? Where did you go? Where did you go, baby? Where did you go?
So probably a good time to take a look at these vocals, and I'm going to open these up now. These are running through a chain you can see here, and let's solo the vocal. Let's come back to the very first time we hear this. Now the first step in this chain is the IK Multimedia mix box. This is being used to really bring out the energy in the vocal and make it sound professional and cut through into the mix. So you've got a couple of things going on here. There's an EQ firstly. There is the 1176 copy here compressing. And then that's partnered with the LA2A compressor copy, which work. These always work really well in harmony. So this is the faster one. This is the kind of smoother one. Then there's an EQ after here. There's a de-esser. And then also a plate reverb as well. So that's a fantastic chain of effects, really, just to bring this out. Let me come back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that off. And you can have a listen how it was before. And now let's turn this on. So it really brings it out. Now there's a couple of other things going on here. There's a vocal doubler because I wanted it to sound a bit thicker. So this is basically the isotope plugin, and it was a freebie. I use that, and it's fairly often in my productions. Really like that one. Then my delay eternity. Now this, I can't drag it up at the moment for some reason. There's a UI issue. But let me just tell you about this, because it's just not. I've got two monitors basically here, and it's not coming up. Let me just try once again, see if I could do this. No, for some reason it's glitched underneath. But anyway, this is ducking. So what it means is that the delay is occurring when there is no signal on the vocal. Can you hear that echo afterwards, which only happens when the vocal stops? So the preset name is called Envelope Follower Ducking. It's great. Absolutely brings this alive. Then I've got, and by the way, I think I've got some audio issues because my buffer size is probably too low for the recording of the screen and the audio and everything. Okay. So next I've got the BX console again. Weirdly, I placed it before this EQ, and I've got two EQs here. I think probably what I was doing was listening later and thinking, no, that sounded a bit too bright. So I've done a couple of chops here, and that's that. So the vocal, very integral, very important part of the track. And that's, you know, providing kind of like the hook, you know, lots of people latch onto vocals, don't they? But this does also come in an instrumental version as well for those that prefer the tracks as instrumentals without the vocals. A couple of other little kind of vocal effects I think going on here, but nothing significant. The other thing I wanted to show you was the chimes, and you can see here that this is literally me running my fingers down the keyboard and or up in this case. So that's creating an effect, it's like a chime. And this is a classic Korg M1. The patch is wind bells. That's running upwards, running through some auto pan for some left and right movement at source, and then also being echoed with delay. So you got some left and right motion coming from the ping pong, reasonably long feedback to have that echoing decaying off into the distance. Then some EQing. So that's the kind of main compositional elements. Let me just take it here. And let me just double check actually, because I did mention an ARP. I think it's this one. There it is. I knew there was an ARP in here somewhere. Let's take a look at this. Really, really integral once again. And this is the Arturia SQ-ATV. Patch called Sharp ARP. Love the way that sits with everything else. In fact, what I'll do is I'll solo some of these together. Do love that. Sounds wicked. All right, so what have we got left? Just the fact that this is running through, once again, the kind of analog style summing of the BX console. So on the master here, you push all and it kind of randomizes everything, and that's great. It gives you kind of like realistic sounding sound of a desk. And then finally, I'm running through the IK Multimedia Lursen mastering console, something I picked up as part of the recent 25 years campaign where there were a whole load of plugins for free. This was one of them, and I love this thing. I'm using it all the time now. So that's it. Deconstruction of Danny J. Lewis Slipped Away, and this song is available now. And it's available now for DJs to download at tracksource.com, and also available in radio edit form across all of the streaming platforms. And, one thing I want to say here is this is my last single of the year, and it's also got this festive version. So I want to wish everybody, a fantastic festive period and a successful new year.